I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to the regular Lincoln County Commission meeting as of Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. I heard on the news this morning that it is National Hamburger Day. So those of you who are beef producers like myself, make sure you go out to your favorite establishment and have a hamburger, okay? So anyway, with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Aaron's and a second by Landine. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon.
Yes. That being said, our next item, do we have any input on the consent agenda? None being,
For approval, Mr. Chair.
yes, I'm asking for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion by Schmidt, second by Aaron's. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon.
Yes, motion carried. Let's go on then to our regular business. And I guess the first item on our agenda, Sherry, will you read the second reading for us, please?
For an ordinance of Lincoln County, South Dakota, rezoning Tract 1, Qualix Edition, Northwest Quarter, Section 32, Township 100 North, R50W, Delapre Township from A1 Agriculture District to I1 Light Industrial District, and amending the official zoning map of Lincoln County.
Toby Brown, I believe you are the person that we need to hear from
Yeah.
at this time. So-
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Toby Brown, representing County Planning. This first item before you this morning for a public hearing, as was just mentioned, this is an application changes zoning of a parcel approximately 4.1 acres in size from the A1 Agricultural District to the I1 Light Industrial District. Subject property is approximately 4,000 feet to the west of the city of Harrisburg. Subject property, as identified in the comprehensive plan, is future agricultural area. This property is neither adjacent to or near rural commercial industrial area. Subject property, as mentioned, is zoned A1 agricultural, as is all surrounding properties to the subject parcel. Subject parcel, and this is an outdated aerial, but subject parcel is improved with a single-family dwelling on the property, and there is some outbuildings that are shown a little to the west of the property there. This one looking to the south would be more of a current picture of what the property is developed as. So the applicant did submit an application to our department to rezone the property from A1 agricultural to I1 light industrial. The concept plan that was submitted with the application identifies that the applicant would like to pursue a contractor shop and storage yard on the subject property. The storage yard would be utilized, outdoor storage would be utilized for the contractor shop and business. So staff did review this application. Staff has had many discussions with the applicant about the subject property. Did identify through the staff analysis and what was listed in the staff report that the subject property is not guided for this type of use, industrial type use. It is guided for A1 agricultural. Property is all developed around it with single-family dwellings. Absent, there is some agricultural uses to the north of the property. As well as this property is within the growth area of the city of Harrisburg. The city of Harrisburg comprehensive plan does identify this subject property as future low-density residential, so it would not be in conformance with the city's comprehensive plan as well. So the subject property, also the department has had a ongoing compliance issue with it. I did include a little synopsis of what staff, kind of got us to this point today. That's not a full detail of it. I excluded all the names and I excluded all the really kind of non-relevant to what we're dealing with today. So the Planning Commission did conduct a public hearing on this application. There was quite a bit of input from the public surrounding the property in opposition to what's going on in the property currently and what would happen with the proposed change in the land use. And so staff did recommend denial of this application. The Planning Commission did conduct a public hearing. Their affirmative motion to recommend approval of this application failed 0-6. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chair. Otherwise, the applicant is in attendance this morning.
Okay, any questions for Toby by this commission?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. The applicant is here, Mr. Gutierrez, correct?
Yes.
Would you like to come up and address anything that hasn't been said, or?
Well, I'm not sure if I can really address or say much. Has been reviewed, and we did have a meeting. Again, it's the property that we do own, and obviously run the business out of there. At the same time, you know, it's not about the neighbors, what's on the back and the side. So I'm not sure if there's really much I can convince or persuade you guys to look at it. But that's pretty much it. I honestly just.
Okay, any questions for our applicant by this commission? Okay, thank you. That being said, are there any proponents here that would like to speak in favor of it? Okay, seeing none. Any opponents that would like to speak? Please state your name and address, please.
Travis Nolly, 27212 471st Avenue, Harrisburg. I actually dropped off a letter on Friday because I didn't think I'd be able to make it here this morning, which you probably have. I think it details a lot. But I think, in summary, there was a lot of us that, you know, could be at the Planning Commission back on the 14th or I can't even remember when it was, I guess. But, you know, work days and stuff, but I can tell you the entire HOA that's around Baker Crossing there was opposed to it. The neighbor just to the south of him, you know, just with the, I don't know if you've watched the minutes or not, but, you know, you could hear the backing up of, you know, heavy machinery, 6:30 in the morning, you know, 6 in the morning, and if it's in light industrial, that's just what it's gonna cause. And I think the Planning Commission, your staff did an amazing job, and I just highly recommend, you know, you just take what they suggested, which is to deny it. You know, it's an unfortunate situation, but I think it's a really bad location for the planning and future especially of Lincoln County. So, thank you.
Any other opponents? Okay, seeing none. Any further discussion by this commission?
Mr. Chairman, I'd have a couple questions for Toby if he'd have some of the answers.
Okay,
Morning, Toby.
Morning.
Can you give me a synopsis of timeline of when structures were built on this property, previous owners, or when he took it? Do you have any of that information?
Yeah, the applicant purchased the property, I would say probably towards the end of 2021, right around there. He did apply for a building permit to construct a single-family dwelling on the property. And I should have stated there is a family, or, you know, the applicant does not live there, but there is a family that does live in the structure, so it is a SHOW structure. And then we issued a building permit on March of 2022, and went through that process.
But the application was just for a house,
Single-family dwelling, yes.
single-family dwelling.
Yep.
And what was, again, what year was that? 22?
22, yep.
22. And the property had not been utilized in any fashion of a business prior to him purchasing that we're aware of?
No, there was a single-family dwelling on the property that was removed, and then the applicant built the structure that's there currently.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Toby.
Yep, thank you.
No further questions.
Okay, any other members of this commission have a question? If not, I guess I'm ready to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd offer a motion to approve as an affirmative action motion.
Okay? There's a motion by Mr. Poppins
I'll second.
and a second by Commissioner Landine. Any discussion? If not, Sherry, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
No.
Commissioner Landine,
No.
Commissioner Poppins.
No.
Commissioner Schmidt,
No.
Commissioner Gibbon.
No. Motion failed. Okay, thank you. Our next item, regular business, item number 2. Let's see, Mr. Anderson, you have this on the agenda. Paul?
Hello, Commissioners. Paul Anderson, Assistant Commission Administrative Officer. I have Myron Adam here from JSA Engineers. He's been doing the engineering work on the proposed parking lot at the site of the old jail, as well as reconfiguring the existing employee parking lot over here and the work on the 2 roads. Myron?
Okay, Myron, state your name and address for us, please.
Myron Adam with JSA Engineers, 6810 South Lindcrest Avenue in Sioux Falls. We were, about a month ago, we got this process started of looking at the 2 parking lots and also parking along Main Street and Broadway Street for additional parking for visitors to the Lincoln County Courthouse. Let's see here, do we have? If I can, this one here.
Yep.
Okay. I was looking for,
If you just scroll down on the side.
there we go. There's that one. There's this one here. Let's see if I can get this zoom. Okay, just as a,
Try and expand it, but never mind. All right, that's as good as.
So we looked at 4 locations here to increase or improve the parking around the courthouse. Quick summary, in the northeast corner of Cedar and 4th Street, we looked at, can this area be restriped and potentially gain a few more parking spots? And we were able to reconfigure that and gain a few parking spots at that location. We then looked at the old jail lot here and the adjoining property at 4th and Main, proposing to basically resurface that and stripe it and do some sidewalk improvements. And you'll gaining about 33 parking stalls in that particular lot. We also looked at restriping of Main Street and Broadway Street and making some improvements for pedestrian crossings, especially here on Main, here just on the south side of 4th Street, and then also a mid-block crossing for those people that are mainly parking in the new lot here to be able to cross over to the courthouse and back. With that particular crossing, there will be some signage, improved signage for that crossing. We'll have some blinking pedestrian crossing signs with push buttons. So if you are wanting to cross here, being that there's likely going to be parking all around the crossing, it's going to be, I think it'd be a good idea to have some flashing signs for those pedestrians to make the vehicles aware that there is somebody in the crosswalk. The area over on Broadway Street, adding a crossing on the north side of 4th Street. The ADA ramps are there. It's mainly just adding the striping. So with the With the striping of Main Street and Broadway Street, in conjunction with that, the city of Canton will be slurry sealing Broadway Street, and they will also be slurry sealing Main Street. And that's basically you've seen it, probably seen it around the city of Canton. They lay down a film of asphalt and an aggregate. Basically turns the streets, and it seals it, turns it black, basically, and then you end up restriping those, all the parking along those areas. Timing of the slurry seal, the city is in the process of, they've got a contractor on hand, and they'll be slurry sealing the project here in town, sometime in July or early August. So they could potentially add these two blocks to that contract if it makes, if all the timing makes sense. As far as the county's work, there would be some curb and gutter on Broadway Street that has to get taken out and put back, and also some curb and gutter and sidewalk on Main Street that would have to be taken out, improved, put back in. It'd be nice to have those improvements done before the city comes in and does their slurry seal, if possible. And that's, the overall timing with our design, depending on your guidance today, we'd start the actual design plans, but it would have to go out for bids and then award contractor contracts. So that, best case, you're probably looking at a contractor at this point in time, maybe early August, to be able to come in and do that work. I know that the city's contractor is scheduled to be complete by August 15th, somewhere around mid-August. So there'd be, I think it's doable to get the sidewalk, curb and gutter work done. It's gonna be pretty tight, though. So with that, that's a pretty basic summary on the project, both on the county side and the city side. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Okay. Any questions
What's the
from
total?
this commission?
When this is all done, what's the total number of parking spaces that will be available?
There will have 130 parking spaces available and 6 ADA spaces. So 136, sorry,
Okay.
total. And currently, there's about 103.
How many?
103.
Oh, 103.
So you're gaining about 33, and most of that comes in the new parking location.
Okay.
Myron, good work on this. Got a very simpleton question. In the old parking lot, I noticed that the lines are basically straight as opposed to diagonal. Does that pose any, and I assume you're doing that in order to increase the number of parking spots. Does that pose any challenges with, parking and accidents and things like that? Make it a little more difficult for people to turn in, or?
Sure, it's that's a great question. Basically, both the parking lots, the existing one and the new lot, were set up with the perpendicular parking, mainly because we had the adequate space. There's certain standards of how far apart the drive aisles have to be, which is 24 feet, and both those lots have that adequate dimension. So
Okay.
it will be your typical parking lot.
Okay. Yeah, in this day and age, everybody's driving a truck, everybody drives a SUV. It just seems like in South Dakota, parking spots ought to be a little bigger, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I get that.
Yep.
So thanks for making that accommodation. And then I also appreciate the work that you and Steve did on the crosswalk issue. And accommodating that. In South Dakota, people love to walk from point A to point B. Doesn't matter if there's a crosswalk there or not, they'll cross. Perfect example, up there in Minnehaha County in Sioux Falls, and I've seen a couple near misses, and this is why I'm very concerned about it, is employees will walk from the county courthouse building across Sixth Street to the county employee parking lot. And there's no crosswalk there. And you've got not only east and west traffic, but you also have people who are pulling out both left and right out of that county parking lot there. And I have seen people almost get clipped because of it. And, you know, to me, it's a public safety issue. You don't want to see some pedestrian get clipped just because people don't want to cross at a crosswalk. So, so I've seen it go on there. So I appreciate the fact that you're making that accommodation here for, you know, with the crosswalk and all that. So, you know, I think it looks good. So thank you.
The layer of blacktop, are you talking an inch, 2 inches, or what?
Oh, no, the slurry seal.
Just a sealer?
It's basically just a seal. It's, it probably, all said and done, 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch.
Okay.
It's got fine aggregate, and it's mainly an oil
Okay.
sand mix almost.
Who would be able to answer a question relating to budget?
If I could, I have a question for him before he got down.
Okay.
I'm curiosity, how long is this engineering evaluation good for? If we didn't move forward today and we did it in a year, would this engineering still be valid? I'm just kind of curious on how long this study would be valid for, so.
No, I think, I don't think there's really a time limit on the design portion of it. It's just a matter of the construction costs over time is the kind of an unknown.
Sure.
Whether it's 4%, 5%, 6%, you know, annual. And with the amount of asphalt, your price is probably driven by the.
Yeah,
the
forego the
gas
prices on
prices.
it. If we came back in 3 years and said we're gonna work off of this document for it, it'd still be a valid document.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank
I'd
you.
like to know if this is in this year's budget.
It's not currently a budgeted item. We've inserted it, or we've planned for it we've included it in John's budget for the building supervisor's budgeted for 2025 at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Paul, any money spent on this would come out of the general fund, right?
Correct.
And just to clarify, the county is currently deficit spending, right? We take in less money than we spend?
Believe so. I'm not sure of that
All right,
off the
thank
top of
you.
my head.
All right.
Do we have any information on projections of needed parking spaces when the new courthouse opens? Because it seems to me like we don't need this.
I'm not sure of the projections of needed projections of the current courthouse at this time, so.
All right, thank you.
I think Steve might have a better idea on that.
Change.
Yeah, some of the reasons why this is being proposed to move up on the timeline is the city of Canton does have the ability to do phase two. And it's not necessarily a cost item. I believe Myron had the numbers around 33,000 for phase two, which would be Main and Broadway as far as the slurry seal and restriping. My biggest concern is if you're gonna put a parking lot like this, you're gonna have a mid-block crossing, you need to make sure that you actually have the crosswalks put in place. So there has to be some coordination with the city of Canton to do this. The fact that they're willing to go ahead and cover these costs is positive, as well as the coordination being able to do it. Whether they'll be able to add it onto their slurry seal next year is definitely something we can entertain as far as timing. As far as current need, I think it's there. I mean, on average, we're seeing about 12 cars parked out on the gravel that's out there. As to Commissioner Landin's point, as far as capacity and needs, once the new courthouse is built, this is really just about future capacity, and in the meantime, we would utilize it, but in the future, as the county continues to grow, again, we're always in the top 10 as far as that goes. In growth, we're going to continue to see growth. As Sioux Falls pushes south, that's going to mean we'll see additional capacity needed here at the courthouse when it comes to county employees. And so We also are using about 80% of the parking downtown by having a very direct, helpful parking lot, off-street parking lot that'll service both the sheriff's office. As you can see, there's crosswalk at the north that allows for direct access through the employee entrance, as well as direct access for the county courthouse from the mid-block crossing. What that will do is it'll relieve some of the street parking, which will also help facilitate some of the businesses to have additional parking. So that's more of a side effect. But again, I think we're trying to increase the efficiency and convenience for those that are county visitors that are coming here to do business or going to court currently, and expecting county residents to walk 2-3 blocks to come in. They're already going to be stressed, and now we're basically just making it easier on our county visitors that are coming here. And at this point, we have a gravel lot that we can continue to utilize, but at some point, the costs, like I said, will continue to increase as we're seeing with inflation. But again, this is more just a coordination piece. I think if we're going to do the improvements, we need to also coordinate with the city to make sure those crosswalks are in place once the improvements are done. So again, the timing of it is up to you.
So have the discussions been about being a city parking lot? I'm a little confused.
I don't know that we've ever discussed this as a city parking lot. I think that it affects the downtown, and it benefits, I would say, overall, everybody that works in this downtown area. I think by adding additional capacity, that does free up additional street parking, which would benefit businesses. So I think that's why the city is willing to participate financially in this project. But in the end, adding the off-street parking that's going to be a county lot, and there'll be signage to that effect.
Steve, how many people work for the court system here and take up a parking spot every day?
That's a good question. I don't know, Drew, do you know our approximate numbers?
Just a swag. Somebody take a swag at it.
10 to 15.
Okay. And then, do you have any general idea, specific or concrete, as to what the average daily number of people that come here for court?
Yeah, that's going to vary too. Obviously, when we have a jury trial, those numbers go way up. But as far as that, how that ebbs and flows on a weekly basis, again, I'd pitch that to Drew on numbers and.
You know how that.
Yeah. Here's why I bring it up, is number one, we should probably start to get an idea of those numbers, because then we can kind of ascertain how many permanent parking spots 2 years from now are going to be exported out to the new courthouse that we don't need to really worry about anymore.
Right.
And that gives us an idea of what the criticality of the need is here.
Yeah, and I agree. Within this 2 years, anecdotally, we can walk outside right now and we can see that impact. But yeah, what happens when you uproot UJS and our state's attorney's office and move it out there? Again, there'll be a bit of a relief during that period of time, but I anticipate the county is just going to continue to grow, and we're going to continue to have to add staff to address services that are going to be demanded by the public. So it's just one of those things. You pay for it now or you pay for it later. It's clearly up to you.
What's the actual cost of redoing the parking lot across
So
the street?
the projections.
What do we have for a
Sure, the
price?
projections that Myron had was 290,000. And for the Phase 2, which would be the slurry seal and restriping, was estimated around 33,000. Again, we haven't gone out to bid, so we don't know where those numbers will come in. But that 290 will likely come down, since part of that cost is going to be adding the gravel, the three-quarter rock that would be for the new parking lot. We've already paid for that. That was something we did a change order when they did the demo. So there'll be some cost savings there. So I think that's a fairly conservative number. I think it'll range in that 250 to 290.
About $250,000.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, I have
Yes.
a couple of questions. Morning, Steve. Do you know, is the city prepared in this year's, of their budget this year to move forward, or is that something they'd have to earmark next year for their budget?
So this would be an add-on to their existing budget for slurry seal. They would add this project in. They've already worked with the contractor, and financially, they're willing to make that commitment to add on to the existing contract at the end to give us time to be able to complete construction.
But again, that willingness to work with us, again, if they have a project next year, I don't know what their timeline is for that, but that would be something we could coordinate in the
And
future.
then do you know, does the city have any zoning subdivision requirements for parking lots? I.e., are we able to use a gravel parking lot based on their requirements or not for their zoning?
I don't know whether they're, at this point, it's, as its current use, there hasn't been any concerns. I don't know, Myron, you want to speak to that?
Commissioner, I can speak to that. Off-street parking within the city needs to be hard surfaced.
According to their zoning.
According, correct. And then you can always request the variance from that, as some have, but typically, off-street parking needs to be hard surfaced.
Does that include crushed concrete? I mean, would that suffice?
That would be a request you can make of the planning and zoning, but hard surface would be asphalt or concrete.
Okay, I guess I'd like to get some public input on this matter. Well, I guess we don't have any public input on the matter. So I guess, as a commission, what do we want to do? I guess I'm willing to entertain a motion at this time if someone has one.
My question is we waited long enough to tear the old jail down, now we got a gravel parking lot. Is our intent to leave this thing gravel, or are we ever gonna hard surface this thing? And I know it's money, I know budgets and all that, but what is our intent? From my standpoint, I thought we should hard surface this and make it a parking lot and be a credit to the campus, but I may be in the minority. Hello.
Ooh, lunch for everyone.
With
Sounds like today.
I obviously am in the minority.
It's hamburger day, I know what I'm gonna have.
Hey,
Hey, Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
I'll answer your question here. And I appreciate the work of the staff, appreciate the work of JSA. All looks very professional, looks very good. Basically, I'd call this the 100% solution. And I think it was a target of opportunity meant to coincide with what the city is doing. From a budgeting perspective, though, I don't like the idea of constantly we see this as coming outside the normal budget cycle and asking to do these things. And it results in this roller coaster effect and having to spend money out of the budget that's not planned and budgeted for. And it creates this situation from a budgeting perspective where, what we need to do, Commissioner Schmidt, like when you talk about strategic planning, is we've got to have a capital improvement plan where we forecast for these things years in advance. It would be nice, it's very gratifying to be able to get it done now, but, I mean, that's just not how public budgeting should work, in my estimation, when it's not an emergency kind of need. I don't think the parking lot is an emergency need, so I think we could plug this into future budgets to get it done. I think that's probably the better way to do stuff like this. But I do appreciate the fact that the staff tried to bootstrap this onto the City of Canton's slurry seal project. So I think they were just trying to make this thing work. From a budgeting perspective, we're already deficit spending in this county, so hard decisions need to be made. We take in less, we're spending more than we take in. So in my estimation, we've got to put these priorities out there, figure out where they fit into the budget cycle, and then go from there. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you. I don't know if that answers your question, Commissioner Schmidt.
no, I just look at this, I understand about budgets, I understand deficit spending, I understand all that kind of stuff. But then there are times when you build something and you put the package together and it's complete and you move on. And I'm comfortable. If you want to leave it gravel, fine. I just think that we spent all this time trying to get this thing pushed forward, And I think it would be a credit if we did it, completed, done with it. And I don't think it's going to bust our budget any more than it is already, but, I mean, that's just my personal perspective. But I respect what you say, Commissioner, and I don't argue with you.
Okay, thank you. I guess,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
quick. And I'll agree with both commissioners. I'll be at Jim today and agree with everybody, but, the thing that I asked the question on, which I was afraid of the answer because I didn't know ahead of time, is what the zoning is for the city. And I even, have parked in that gravel parking lot in the past. If push came to shove, city could say that we couldn't use that parking lot for any purposes until it's hard serviced. We have made a pretty substantial investment already into obviously removing the structure. I think putting adequate gravel fill in there for a parking lot. So I sit really on a fence on whether or not I would prefer that we would delay for 1 year and get it into our budget as we're just starting our budget process now, so. But that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Commissioner Landine, who is probably, her husband's well-versed in concrete. You mentioned crushed concrete. What was your thought on that?
I just think if we're gonna do something that, I'm not ready to spend this kind of money on something that we may not need, and then we spend 300,000 and then decide we need to, to use it for something else, or we decide to sell it, and then it's just all getting ripped out anyway. So unless somebody can show me that there is a need right now, maybe people park over there right now because they don't want door dings and such, but I've never gotten here in the morning and not been able to find a place to park.
Well, I'm currently
So
parked over
it's
there.
that's really expensive parking space, so I'm not gonna be a yes today for sure.
well, I would hope we would keep it as a parking lot, but I'm not saying that now is the time to actually seal it and blacktop it or whatever, because I know we don't have the money in the budget.
Well, we've also got a lot of unknowns with the new courthouse now. While the numbers look good for that right now, anything could come up, and I just think it would be irresponsible for us to do this right now.
Okay. Well, I guess if I don't have a motion, one way or another, I guess, last chance, we'll move on to the next item, so. I guess we don't have one, so, yes, we do or we don't. All right,
Hey, you want to get action. Mr. Chair, I'll vote that we do hard surface it just for discussion to move this thing off the point, because we obviously have 3 or 4 no votes, but.
I'll second your motion for.
okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Schmidt and a second by Commissioner Poppins to move forward with this thing, and I don't know, was it blacktop it or what?
We take public.
Seal it?
Get on
Okay,
with it.
all right, any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, Board, what are your thoughts on if we went through the process, actually find out what a bid number is officially on it before? I think we can reserve the right to accept and reject all bids. I wouldn't be opposed to doing that, and just to get a finite number of what it actually might cost us. But
Is that your motion to amend? Because if it is,
Or
I'll
would you want to
second that.
withdraw your motion, Commissioner Schmidt?
Well, I don't know that we have to actually change, because all it has to do is, all bids have, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm getting nods from at least 2 of the bench back there, that we can reject any and all bids, even if we do go to bid, so.
Yeah, Commissioner, I'm always in favor of getting a bid. That is not the same as agreeing to move forward with a project. I think regular people do that all the time in their everyday lives, just want to know what
Yeah,
something's going to cost.
we as a board would have the ability
Yeah.
to just, because
Mr.
we'd
Chair?
have to accept bids or reject bids, so there would be still one more vote that would be needed, so.
Mr. Chair, I would withdraw my motion and include the idea that we do go out for bids to find out what the actual cost to complete this parking lot resurfacing, striping, et cetera. That would be my new motion.
Okay, would you withdraw your second from,
I'll withdraw and we can remotion it, but what I urge caution on is if we're just fishing for a number, people are not going to bid it probably, and definitely not going to probably spend the time. I would hope that if we got a number that is considerably less because of the work that we've already done, that maybe that would change our mind to move forward. But I'll withdraw the motion and see what happens after
Okay.
that.
all right,
Second.
I guess you two came to the podium, you must have something to say again, so, Myron?
One thing I would be a little bit concerned with, of knowingly going out for bids and knowing that you were not going to award regardless of the price. I think those bidders that put in the time and effort to give you a fair number, I think that's, I'm not sure if that's the right way to do that. I would recommend, if you do want what a bid price is, I can certainly provide the package to two area contractors and just have them, give us an estimate on this work. I would be more comfortable doing, moving forward with that, because, going out for bids, one, you have an expense of rebidding later, but knowing that you're not going to award to anyone, I think these bidders do put in quite a bit of effort into their bids. So I'd probably recommend that we just go out, if you want a price, I could take it to a couple contractors and have them, give us a quote and be upfront with them and.
Okay, I guess we still have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Schmidt, correct?
No, I think you removed. Did you not remove?
I pulled my motion.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no motion.
Everything.
There's no motion.
There's no motion, okay.
If you're willing to do that, please, I would like him to do that, but what's everyone else's thoughts?
I can live with that, I think that's fair.
Yeah, and I don't think we need any
Nope.
official action on that.
No, I would not think so.
All right, well, we'll be waiting to hear from you. Thank you. Moving on, item number 3, Paul, I know that Dave is here. I'll let you two go ahead. Public defense contract.
I just have Dave Stewart to give an update on public defense.
Morning, Dave.
Good morning. Is the overhead working? Or how do you?
Click of a button or two.
Good morning, Dave Stewart. Our firm provides the main public defender contract for the county. Just very quick background, I usually come in about this time of year, especially when you're getting into your budgeting season, and we're not talking about contracts or anything right now. I'm in the first of a 3-year contract with the county, so we have 2 more years after 2024. What I did want to do is just give you a little bit of an update on how the numbers and how the cases are progressing up through the end of May of this year. So at the bottom of the chart for 2024, we're currently at 213 felonies and 214 misdemeanors for a total case load of 427. The 2 areas that I want to point out as you start getting down into the written portion of this document, one is the rate at which we're getting the cases, and then once we've hit our cap as the main contract, the county has also contracted with an overflow firm, which is Meyer and Billion. So compared to 2023 for felonies, the main contract, we've hit that 4 cases faster than last year. But more importantly is once we hit that cap, then the overflow contract has received 48 cases already on the overflow. So we hit it 10 cases faster, and there's an additional 48 cases for a total of 58 more cases this time in 2024 as compared to last year in 2023. So roughly about a 37% increase in the first 5 months of how fast these cases are coming in.
Somewhat similar for the felonies as well. We've hit that cap on our main contract quicker, and then the overflow contract has been taking an additional 19, or I'm sorry, additional 15. So on the felonies, we're 19 cases ahead of last year. On the misdemeanors, we're 58 cases ahead. The reason I want to point that out is, as you'll recall, last year when I was talking about contracts with you, I had predicted that we were going to cap out on the misdemeanors. So our firm handles 500 misdemeanors. We hit that right at the end of July, beginning of August of 2023. The county has now put in place that overflow contract, but I think you should probably be looking at that as well. We're probably going to max out that overflow contract. That would be my best guess for you guys. Myers-Billion is taking 10 felonies per month, and I believe 15 misdemeanors per month. And you can see when we're already up at 58 misdemeanors in the first 5 months, they're probably going to get pretty close because the first couple months were short months for them. On the felonies, I think the same. So something to be thinking about, something to start talking both with us, with Colin Fink on behalf of Myers. So a little bit of an update. You can start going back and just overall looking at when we started this contract in 2016. You can go across on the felony column there. We did a total of 232 felonies when I first started the main contract. We've already basically done that in the first 5 months of this year. So you can see how your numbers are growing in less than, 8, 9 years. And it's going to do this, it's just going to keep doing the same. That's all. I'll keep it pretty short unless there's any questions. If any of you want to dive into any other areas, that's fine. But just giving you a little bit of heads up of how it's all going and how quick the cases are coming in.
Dave, one of the questions I get from folks at home is, when we use the term cases, because we're using the terms cases in here, and then in our charts and graphs, we have the number of felonies. So help me understand this just in terms of reading your chart here. There could be one person charged with 20 felonies, let's say. When you use the term case, you're just talking about one individual regardless of the number of charges, right?
Correct. If the state's attorney has charged out under a case file and open that with the clerk of courts, that would be one case for us. So if we get assigned to that one case, it may have 15, 20 charges on it, but it's one case.
And then in the box graph right here where it talks about number of felonies, 525, that doesn't necessarily obviously mean 525 case files. It could be 300 case files with 525 felony charges, for example, right?
No, that's 525
Okay.
files.
So when we use the term felonies, what we're actually talking about is case files, right?
Yeah, when the court goes through and the court appoints our public defender office under the contract, it would be on specific case files. Now, an individual may have, they may pick up a case file. While they have that, they pick up another case file. That would be two, but it's actually case files. And the reason last year, under 2023, that it's 525 is that was our public defender contract cap. So we hit that cap, and that was roughly December. So then there was overflow having to go out to just court-appointed attorneys just at random and at the court's discretion.
Yeah, I remember Judge Rasmussen came in here, I think maybe it was October, maybe, and she kind of gave a thumbnail sketch of what she thought was going to be the, where the numbers were going. And I think her estimation was definitely in the ballpark of what we ended up going over. And then I think as a result of that, we ended up contracting with Colin Fink and Myers-Billion take care of that, so.
That's correct.
Yeah, so I think her projection was pretty close to what it ended up to be.
Right. And just from what we're seeing, that's why I wanted to give you a little update here in May is, while you guys are starting to consider your budget, the numbers are really moving. So, when I visit with Colin, from Myers Billion, he thinks he's probably gonna end up capping out on his in these individual months. And then it's still gonna be going outside to other court-appointed counsel, so, gives you the ability to think about whether you want additional contracts or just to go out to court-appointed attorneys.
Any other questions for
Quick
Dave?
question for Dave. Can you give me an idea, percentage-wise, Dave, of the 23 cases? What was your percentage of total cases that the county had that you covered?
Say that one more time.
The total cases that the county had, do you know by chance how many that you ended up covering yourself or your firm covered percentage-wise?
Sure. I would say we're covering the vast majority of all of the cases.
Is it 80, 90, 70?
I would say,
90? There you go.
yep.
Dave, I have kind of a question, not being a privilege of being an attorney. What happens when you max out your overflow contract?
So right now, if the overflow contract maxes out, the court has the ability to appoint a private attorney that's willing to take criminal defense cases.
So it goes back to the judge?
It does.
Okay. Thank you.
David, thanks for everything that you do. Is this a long-term plan for you to keep doing this contract, or, and if you don't want to say publicly, that's fine, but you've been doing it for quite a while. I just didn't know if there was any succession plan in place.
There is actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I think all the years I've been coming in front of you, either this is causing my hair to fall out or it's just, but yeah. No, because of the nature of the contract and where we are and the numbers, how they've grown, I've given up, kind of on the other side with my private firm, a lot of the private practice that I typically had done and focus more on this. At a point when I may be moving out of the contract, I have another partner at my firm that would be stepping into the contract. He's also incredibly well-versed in criminal representation, so that would be the longer-term plan, and we're in a 3-year, and I'd be looking at contracting with the county again beyond that.
Have you found problems like recruiting attorneys to work, down here? I mean, because obviously if you had more attorneys, you could take on more cases, arguably, but has that been an issue for you?
That's kind of one of the things under even just the contract that I have with the county that keeps me up at night, because if any one pin in who I'm subcontracting with, if any one of them just decided it's not worth it anymore to me, I'm just going to focus on private practice, yeah, I'd be in a tough spot. There's very few people anymore, other than brand-new grads coming out of law school, who I wouldn't feel comfortable putting into this level of felonies. They may be appropriate to start in the misdemeanors, but other than just brand-new grads, it's pretty tough to find attorneys that are willing to come down and travel. There's so much work correspondingly in Minnehaha County as well, that if they're based in Sioux Falls, it's a better financial picture for them just to stay in Sioux Falls than it is with the travel and the time that they're down here and away from their office. So, yeah, simple, easy answer is, yep, it's getting very difficult to find additional attorneys. And I think that's what the court is finding as well, is more and more people are taking their names off of the court-appointed list. We have a list that all the judges keep of who's available to take cases, and that's always slowly shrinking right now.
Thank you.
Dave, in terms of crime and the statistics and all that of these felonies, we of course focus a lot on the numbers here, but what kind of felonies are we seeing? I mean, is this Is it primarily driven by drugs and alcohol, or larceny, or aggravated assault, or what are we seeing here going on?
The easiest way to kind of cap for that question is, unfortunately, the drugs right now, whether it's methamphetamine, fentanyl, cocaine, heroin, all of those, the drugs are driving almost everything that we see in our, both the state's attorney's office, what we see as defense. If it's a burglary, it's because they're burglarizing a storage unit or a home or a garage to get money to buy drugs. If it's an assault, it's usually somewhere based in alcohol or drugs. I would say probably 70–80% of our cases all have drugs in them somehow, which is pretty disturbing.
And we're not talking about marijuana here, we're talking about like fentanyl and Mexican meth?
Yeah, I'm talking about, the felony level, drugs.
Distribution and yeah.
And I was just looking at some different numbers here, but, the worst, when we start getting up into the higher level felonies, that's thankfully a smaller percentage of what we're handling. Most of the felonies are coming in kind of in that class 5 to 4 to 3. A class 3 would be an aggravated assault. So the class 5s, 4s, and 3s, that's going to be the primary amount of what we handle. That's picking up all of your drug prosecutions, aggravated assaults, burglaries, if they're not kind of the aggravated burglaries coming into a home or something like that. But that's the main amount of what we're handling on a year-to-year basis.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Yeah, I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I guess we're ready to move on to item number 4. Item number 4, we have board action to renew pretrial services agreement with Minnehaha County. Drew?
Morning, Commissioners. Drew DeGroat from the State's Attorney's Office, asking for board action to renew an agreement with Minnehaha County for pretrial services. Pretrial services contract, I guess, give you a brief synopsis of it. They're a pretrial services staff up in Minnehaha County that collect data on inmates from Lincoln County. That data is then presented to the judges, the prosecutors, and defense attorneys in regards to whether the person bond's appropriate, whether they should be held, whether pretrial monitoring is appropriate. So those are some of the services that are offered. Again, this is a renewal contract, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
How long have we had this arrangement, Drew?
Oh, I believe 2 to 3 years.
Okay. And it's working well?
The judges are the main proponents of it, I guess. They utilize it frequently because they make a lot of their determinations on whether somebody should be held, whether they should receive pretrial monitoring. Pretrial monitoring includes kind of like a probation officer type arrangement. They receive alerts for court hearings, reminders for court hearings, and they have to check in with pretrial services, make sure that they're staying in touch with them. So it's kind of like a probationary light, I guess you want to call it, phrase it in some fashion.
I mean, really, at the end of the day, isn't this agreement making sure people get to court?
Correct.
And so the cost savings, it may not necessarily be to the county, but to our partner, the UJS, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Any other questions for Drew or comments?
Drew, was this originally funded through a grant program?
For Lincoln County, as far as pretrial services up in Minnehaha County, yes, it was through the MacArthur grant. It was originally funded, yes.
And is that grant over then, do you know?
No, I believe there's a 1-year extension, if I can recall correctly.
Are you seeking a motion today for approval?
Yes.
I would move for approval.
Okay,
I'll
let me ask
second.
for public input first.
Linda Montgomery from Fairview. Commissioner Aaron's, I appreciate your comment on the last bullet point on this, on number 4. What are we doing? We're talking about court, we're talking about lawyers. What are we doing as a community for prevention? To actually look at, like in medicine, what do we look at? We look at preventative medicine. We need to look at what is drawing these crimes. Has it really increased since we started having the pot houses or the manufacturers? And I know we want to say, well, that's not the problem, Linda. It could be part of the problem. And I just think that we need somehow to look at what has changed in our community and what is continuing to change, that all our numbers are going up. I know this sounds naive to you, I'm sure, but I just really believe that as a community, as a county, maybe we better look at why. And I'm sorry, I just think that there is something that we need to really look in depth at these cases that are being tried in this county. I know we have 2 lawyers, I know you see it all the time, and I'm sure you do look at them and go, what can be changed for this individual? And I just think that there is something that as a community, if we want Lincoln County to really grow, do we want it to grow with crime at this level? If we look at it, how is it going to be in 2-3 years? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? I guess if not, I'd be willing to entertain a motion.
I so moved for renewal.
And I had a second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Commissioner Schmidt and Landine. Any discussion? Call the roll, Sherry.
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes.
Poppins?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Gibbon?
Yes. Motion carried. Next, item number 5, Sherry?
Okay, so before we go into the item, I am wondering if we want to do, for these appraisal committees that come up, can we do 2 people out of the department and then the liaison, the commission liaison as the appraisal committee? And then we don't have to work so hard on thinking about it?
When you're talking a department, you're talking the equalization department?
Well, for these tax deeds,
Yep.
yes, but for like the sheriff, then it'd be 2 people in the sheriff's office and then the liaison. So for the tax deeds, it'd be 2 people in the DOE and then you.
That makes sense. To me,
Would
anyway.
agree.
I'm okay with it, I
Okay,
guess.
so going forward, when I have a surplus on there, that's what I'll plan on doing.
I was just making sure you weren't saying the auditor's office and that liaison
No,
for all
no,
these.
no.
I would be in favor of that.
Okay, okay. All right, so then on these tax deeds, so we've had these tax deeds for quite a few years, some of them. You'll see I've got, 5 of them today to do. So I'm looking to declare surplus and remove them from inventory. Some of them have been declared surplus or removed, but then nothing was done with them, so it's just kind of starting over the process. Then I'm going to appoint the landowners and also advertise online with our public surplus auction. So what I'm planning on doing is these, if you look at the parcels that I attached on the agenda item, you'll notice that most of these are plating problems, or one of them was left over from when they did a development. Thank you, Drew.
I have a question for you.
So I was going to send a letter out to the attached bodies to the tax deed property, let them know that we're planning on selling it, like this first one here. You can see it's somehow or another got platted off from there, but it's completely surrounded by these folks. So I'm going to send these folks a letter and tell them that we're planning on offering it up for tax deed.
I have a question. On tax deed properties, do they have to be to be an appraiser, a registered landowner in the county?
Yeah, yes.
So the whoever's coming from the department would still have to qualify?
Yes.
under
Yes,
that?
they would have to be a registered landowner, yeah.
Okay, so, if you'll give me the permission, then we'll just go ahead and move forward. You can give me, I think for the appointing the landowners, we could do, Ethan Heisky, he's a landowner. I guess I could do it since I didn't come prepared with another name, and then Commissioner Poppins,
Sure.
if that will work. And I do have, what they would be valued at from the assessor. None of them, except for parcel 2021 and D01, are over $5,000. And I think our new limit for appraisals is over $2,500. So we'll do Ethan, me, and Mike. Otherwise, is there any other questions regarding the process, or?
I see none.
Makes sense.
Okay. So anyone just give me one motion to do all three of those actions?
I'll move to do that.
Is there,
Second.
do we need to do public comment first, or public input?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, need public input, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Any others, Sherry?
Not for this item.
Okay. Very good.
If there's no public comment, I'll make that motion.
Okay. We have a motion by Aaron's. Do we have a second?
Tiffany seconded it.
Who did second it?
I'm a second on it. I just
Tiffany.
was wondering if there was any public input on it, and we
Okay.
haven't asked for that yet.
Okay. And we have a second by Commissioner Landine. Is there any public input on it? All right. Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
All right, so my next one is to do surplus for item in the sheriff's office. It is their transport van. Then I will appoint Sheriff Swenson, Chad Brown, and Commissioner Aaron's for the appraisal committee. And then authorize me to advertise it for the online auction.
Okay, are you looking for what now, Sherry?
I need a motion to
Motion.
do all three of those
I'll
items.
offer the motion.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Poppins, second by Schmidt. Is there any public, or any discussion? Is there any public input on this matter? Okay, if none, I guess call the roll.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gibbon.
Yes, motion
I'm just gonna
carries.
keep you guys confused.
Thank you. Next item, the auditor's annual report of transactions for previous fiscal year.
Okay, so I had attached a bunch of information regarding 2023's financial. But if, this PowerPoint is going to basically go over the general fund. In 2023, we had general fund budget of $26,042,643. And what do all these numbers mean? When we look at the general fund, it looks like we didn't really know what we were doing because we had $7 million as cash applied, when it actually came in at $700,000. Yes, we're still overspending, but it wasn't by the $7 million that we had budgeted. So we are under budgeting the revenues. We had insurance proceeds of $20,055. And we had, I'm losing my spot on here, $1.4 million in unbudgeted, or I'm sorry, $1.1 million in unbudgeted interest investments, which obviously that was a lot of, because we're moving the money around now, it also has to do with the great interest rates that we have. Our revenue, yes, we had $792,405 in a reduction in cash in the general fund. I guess I'm not sure the best way to go through all of this. So there's, again, our general expenses versus the actual and our general revenue versus actual. We're still over budgeting for our expenditures and under budgeting for our revenues, which I guess is probably a kind of a good way to do it. General fund revenues, 21,610,154. That includes taxes, charges for goods and service, intergovernmental revenue, miscellaneous revenue, fines and forfeitures, license and permits. Our property taxes were 16,620,047. Was budgeted for 2024, but 15,289,197 was the actual that we received in 2023. We had about 4.903 growth percentage for last year in 2023, and we budgeted 4.8. And I think the numbers that I've seen is it's going to be about a 4.4 for next year. With our license and permits, we had 569,840, with the medical cannabis being 160 of that. Building permits were 383.95. Intergovernmental revenue, that includes bank franchise, other intergovernmental revenue, liquor tax reversion, telecom tax, the FTA grants, motor vehicle, veteran services, state share, and law enforcement grants. We had, I don't have a total on there, but those are the different breakdowns on those. Totals for charges for goods and services. 2023, we had $3,469,095. Sheriff fees came in at about 1 million of that, and ROD fees were 1.5. Total charges for goods and services. Fines and forfeitures. I think when we were talking to Dave and everything else, we kind of see the upticks here. If you look now, our 2023 actual was $257,000 in fines and forfeitures. Miscellaneous revenue, insurance proceeds, interest income, other miscellaneous revenue, the VSO agreement, which we don't have anymore. That was what we had with Union County. Contributions, rents, the Spring Creek reimbursement, and sale of county properties. The sale of county properties, I think that we're seeing a better number on now that we've started using that online surplus auction.
Sherry, can I interrupt you?
Absolutely,
Can you go back one slide?
I can.
On those fines and forfeitures, that's how much we as a county collect, but we don't actually keep that total dollar amount, correct? It gets parceled out to the schools?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So this is what came in, and then based on a percentage, and I don't have those percentages with me. But yes, those we'd keep a part of it, and schools would get a part of it.
We get the little teeny tiny
The
percentage,
little tiny
right?
sliver,
And then
yep.
according to the state constitution, the schools get most of it, right?
Yep, that is
Okay.
correct. It's
All
kind of
right.
like the TIF administration. The cities get all the TIF administration money, and I do all the work.
Right.
It's true.
Thank you. The reason I interrupted you is I wanted to point that out because one of my things is I think the state legislature should charge more for when people get a DUI. And there ought to be more money coming to the counties to reimburse us for those law enforcement costs that we end up paying, but we don't end up collecting.
I would agree.
I'll step down from my soapbox now.
Well, we collect it, but then we give it.
Excuse me, we don't keep it.
Yeah, we
Right.
don't keep it.
Right. We're just the pass-through entity. Our general fund expenditures, we had a total expenditures in 2023 of $22,600,321. You can see how those are broke out. And I have, if you look in these documents that I've submitted, I've got it sorted by personal services, general operating, so you can see how they're all broke out outside of this PowerPoint. And that is it. So there's any questions on that? All right, so in the road and bridge fund, we did overexpend our budget by $1.4 million, so you'll be hearing about that in the audit again. I have done some changes to the processes. I now keep a better track of what you guys have approved throughout the year. What happened with this one is there was a project that was approved at the beginning of the year, slipped through the cracks. I didn't think about it. By the time the end of the year came, there had not been a request for a supplement. So that process has been changed now to where you'll see them, I've got an approval on today for another hearing where we're doing quarterly supplements. So department heads should be aware if they don't have anything if that's something that's being presented in the budget or to you guys that's not in the budget, they should be getting the information to me so we can do a supplemental hearing on it, hopefully to avoid that in the future. So the three major items that we have are the general fund, the highway department, and the justice center. The justice center had an ending fund balance of $53,647,963 with expenditures totaling $3,747,462.35. And that one is about the only ongoing contract that we have going from 23 into 24 with the exception of the airport hangar or the apron, which is getting resolved within the next couple weeks. Any questions over any of the documents that I submitted or any of the information that I've presented or?
Sherry, it's a lot of information.
It is.
But I want to thank you for the work you put into it and the work of your staff. They did a good job and you did a good job on it. So thank you for putting that together because I think it does help the public to understand where their tax dollars are going. So thank you.
Yep, and it's at any time, if anybody has any questions regarding any of these reports, give me a call and we can talk about them.
One question I do want to talk about is, are we deficit spending as a county or not?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at the fact that we dipped into our cash by about $700,000 in '23, that's the sign of deficit spending. It means we're hitting our cash. Not by the amount, of course, that we've got budgeted, thank God, because we wouldn't be able to sustain that, but we are hitting it. The general fund alone was hit by 700 and some thousand. All the other funds, the 911 and that, they actually had increased their combined fund balance by 357. So our 911, emergency manager, 24/7 programs, they've increased. Now, granted, some of that money that they get comes from the general fund, so.
Yeah, and I don't get too alarmed when I see the difference between actual and budgeted. Because anybody could put any number in the quote-unquote budgeted category.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean we as a commission are gonna approve that. So I don't get too worried about that. But if you had to do some kind of back-of-the-envelope math as for when our cash is gonna run out at its current burn rate, what do you think that is? Now, I know there's a ton of variables that can go into that, but we've got a burn rate. We're using X amount every year. When are we gonna run out, do you think?
Well, if I look at this and I say that we had 792,000 that we dipped into our cash for 2023, and if you take that times what, 3 years, it's $21 million, so if it stayed the same 3 years.
Thank you.
I mean, that's very back of the envelope math, but.
Yeah, no, and I'm not, sticking it to you, trying to hold you to it. I mean, I think people understand that that's a complex analysis, but at the same time, I think that property taxpayers kind of say, well, really, is it? We know we spend this amount every year. We know we've got this much. We divide it. We kind of know our answer, don't we?
Well,
So,
okay, any other questions?
Any other questions for our auditor? All right, thank you. Next, Mr. Timmerman. Thank you for waiting patiently.
Good morning, Commissioners. Before you today is a brief addition to our current burn ban policy, which basically states that anytime the National Weather Service issues a red flag warning, our burn ban is in effect, in addition to the other things that are in there. Are there any questions on that? Reason for that is if you try and put it on and take it off, it's a little cumbersome. When this happens, when there's a red flag warning, nobody should be burning. Should this be approved, I'll generate a press release for all the media and our newspapers, and I'll personally call each fire chief, so they're aware of it too, so.
And this will just get posted, This will just get posted on our website as well, so if people had a question, if we're in a burn ban or not, it'll come up, red flag warning, do not burn.
We'll either get it put on my part of the website or on the general front page, so.
And I think last week we practically had one every day, a burn ban.
Yeah, and there's, right now, we're in pretty good shape. We haven't had to worry about it too much yet. But as the summer progresses, we get a lot of wind the way it seems this year. When the humidity's low, we have a big issue. All of our fire departments are volunteers, so they have to leave work to fight these fires that are unnecessary. So this is why I wanted to include this. I know some other counties have done this. I can't name you which ones right now off the top of my head, but it seems like a good policy.
Yeah, Harold, because you can't anticipate on, off, so.
No.
This is consistency, and I would move for approval.
Second.
Okay. Before we vote on it, is there any public input on it? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Schmidt and a second by Mr. Aaron's. Is there any discussion? This is to apply the burn ban for our county whenever it's issued by, is it the National Weather Service, or who actually issues them, Harold?
The National Weather Service puts out the red flag warnings.
Yeah. Okay. Any discussion? If not, Sherry, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes.
Poppins?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Gibbon?
Yes. Motion carried.
Thank you. One other thing I would bring before you, we did a shelter-in-place drill last month with all the staff and the whole building here. That went well. Everybody went to their designated place of shelter. Tomorrow, we're doing an evacuation drill, which will mean everybody that's here just before 5 o'clock will need to evacuate over to the library just to the north, where we will then have the department heads give us an accountability of their staff or any public that may have been in the building at that point in time. And we're going to try and do this so we don't generate any overtime for staff and yet not interfere with public coming in to, like, the treasurer's office. Should somebody come in as we're doing this, we're going to accommodate them somehow just so they're not driving here for no good reason. So with that, if you have any questions about those, I'd try and answer them.
All right, thank you.
Good enough, thank you.
I guess before, I'm assuming we have executive session, Drew? Well, you do not?
Can I make one correction?
Yes.
When I said that we would be out of money in 3 years, it's wrong. It'd be about 26 years. If we took the 21 million divided by the 800,000, it'd be about 26 years. So we're not deficit in 3 years.
And I do need an executive session under SDCL 125-2 sub 3.
Okay, we do have a request for that. I guess,
Let's take our comments.
should we take our public comment
Yep.
first from the public before we go into executive session?
Yes.
Thank
Is that
you.
okay with you, Commissioner?
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Please state your name and address and,
Yes, Linda Montgomery, Fairview, South
I guess,
Dakota.
yeah, 3
Thank you
minutes,
for
please.
letting me speak before you go into public session. I again here is to talk about what I really wanted to talk about at public hearing is the CVR, the ballot images, and the audit log. Now, there's been some problems with this, and I'm assuming that this is what has been the problem in the last 3.5 years with all the issues about us asking for CVRs. I remember a time when Commissioner Aaron's asked Auditor Lund if we had CVRs, and she said yes and no. I never understood that question until here lately. The CVR records being two separate records, the ballot image and the result file of the scan of the ballot image. These are required in the election machines. We have a federal primary and a federal election coming up in November. We need to be able to audit the machine and our election. It's a must. And the only way that anyone can say they're 100% for the tabulators is if we do an audit. And the audit consists of the CVR, the ballot image, and the audit log. They can be simply run off by the auditor. Apparently, it's like 5 minutes. ES&S should have been always preparing our auditors for this. This is not a small thing. This is our election. This is what runs our country. And please just look at me for 30 seconds. Please. I get really tired of not being looked at when I'm up here and sat for however long. I really appreciate you looking, because this is an issue that needs to be public. We need a public hearing on our elections. What can we do? We've always heard, Linda, the machines are fine, this election is perfect. Hey, we signed it, we certified it. You've never proved that the machine is right and the election is right. This is a federal election. In this primary, I don't know if you've looked at the campaign donations going on in our primary. Never in the history of Lincoln County have we had so much money coming into this county, and not all from Lincoln County. We need to be able to verify our election, to verify the machines. The ballot images need to be on. Even your surety company advises the auditors to keep them on and to keep them for 22 months. This is a federal election, both primary and general. We need to have those on, and I want you to be able to verify. You are going to require our tabulators to have the ballot images on. So when I come to you and ask, can you run the CVRs, the ballot image, and the audit logs? I hope we don't go through what we have the last 3.5 years. Of course, you weren't able to give us the CVRs, because that would be to admit that those, I'm assuming, this is an assumption, that those ballot images were not on, so we couldn't actually audit the machine. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, if not, can I entertain a motion for executive session?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion by Aaron, second by Schmidt. Will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Landine?
Yes.
Poppins?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Gibbon?
Yes. We're.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Who did
Any
it?
discussion?
Schmidt and Aaron's.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes.
Poppins?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Gibbon?
Yes. And now, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.